Bezrat Hashem, Mincha today is going to be 7 p.m. and the early minyan is going to be praying at 5:55 in the annex. The Halacha tells us we're going to be starting to do the halachot of proper etiquette in the seudah, during the meal. And the Halacha says, En mesihin b'shat seudah. You cannot go ahead and speak during the duration of the meal. This is the Halacha that's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. A person is not supposed to speak during the time that he's eating. Now the Gemara is talking about a circumstance that's a bit different than today. The Gemara's circumstances, when they would sit to eat, they wouldn't sit like we sit on chairs, they would sit on beds. And they would lie down, and then they would be eating, essentially lying down on what we would look at as a bed. That's how they would have their meals. This is why it's called lehasev. Lehasev means to recline, to be leaning. Since that was the case, to speak during the meal was considered to be very, very dangerous. Because if you speak, and then you're eating, and you're lying down, that's something that could really go ahead and it can cause a person to choke on the food, and things like that. So therefore, the Gemara says it's appropriate to not speak during the meal. Today, the poskim write, since we're not lying down, we're sitting on chairs, so the same prohibition doesn't apply. One is allowed to speak, and this is the minhag. In almost every household, people do go ahead and talk during the meal, and they're not violating this halacha. The only real time it would come up is Pesach, because then we actually do recline during certain parts, and in the parts that we're reclining, yes, then you really should not go ahead and you should speak during the time that you're reclining. But the rest of the meal, generally even on Pesach, the majority of the time we're not reclining. When we're eating the matzah, we recline, but essentially, and the drinking of the cups, of course. But aside from that, we're not really reclining, and therefore that prohibition of not speaking in the meal no longer would apply. Certainly if he's talking divrei Torah, it would not apply. But one thing that still does carry over is if a person's actually in the middle of eating and chewing, even if it's something like a beracha, where there is someone saying a bracha and you want to answer amen, if you're chewing on the food and you're about to swallow, you really shouldn't answer amen, because it is dangerous. And therefore the Gemara says, in that circumstance, just think amen in yourself, but don't actually say it out of concern and out of danger. But of course, all other circumstances, you should go ahead and answer amen, and you're allowed to speak during the meal. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.